Today on Off and On the Clock, we got the champ here with us. You might know him as the winner of the World Series of Poker main event, but around here, he's the defending champ of the dance. Clearly a much more prestigious contest. And so we are going to talk shop with him today about the contest, how the NBA playoff landscape is shaping up right now, so you guys can continue to get your entries into that contest. And also, of course, we got to react to the Nuggets canning their coach, Mike Malone, here right as we go live. It's Off and On the Clock with Pete, John, Nez, and guest Scott Blumstein. Let's do it. All right, fellas. Nez will be joining us here shortly. Scott, welcome to Off and On the Clock. How you doing, man?
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is a treat. I ever since I met the Mans about six or 7 years ago after I won, that's all I think about is the Mans. So
I know that's what's that, John?
I was about to say I'm confused because the Mans isn't here. I don't know who this Mans
character
is.
Well, the artist formerly known as Mans, exactly.
Yeah, all of our initial run-ins were as the Mans because we did that Poker Night in America thing in where were we, in Philly for that, I believe.
Yeah.
And then obviously the Gambling Olympics was Mans. I was out in Vegas for a few things. But now we're crossing paths in another portion of our lives where we have abandoned the poker world and now we're just underdog grinders, right?
Exactly.
Do you still play? Like, how much poker do you play these days?
Now, like almost none. Yeah, I really just don't. I like people. That's literally the number one question I get asked, probably. Yeah. And like, I don't know. I got to the mountaintop, and then I just have nothing to prove, so I just don't play. Like, I don't know what people want for. Like, they get like mad that I don't play poker still. I'm like, I don't want to. Like, leave me alone. Like, like it's okay. If I get the bug and I play the main event every year, I try to win that. Like, it's fine. Like, I'd much rather just flick in a couple underdog dailies and sit back and watch sports on TV. Like, sorry.
Yeah. Because I like right after you won, and obviously there's kind of like that, I don't know, like halo effect time where you're probably getting events to all kinds of different tournaments, pro-ams, like special events. Does that like kind of peter out, or are you still getting like events to a lot of things and you're just like, I'm good?
I think it like peters out. Like, I definitely think I was complicit in it petering out, like I probably didn't do my part to keep it coming, but I also, like, what I'm saying, I didn't care enough. Like, I knew I could have potentially, capitalized on it, and I just wasn't in my nature, it just is what it is. But I was a young guy. I was 25 years old. Like, I don't know. I didn't really. So now that I'm older, I am more wiser. Maybe I would have, done more to do the dance, if you say. But yeah, I just don't. It is what it is. Like,
yeah. Well, it's funny because I forget who I was talking to, but in a lot of ways, sometimes I would think that like being an underdog grinder would kind of be conducive to playing like poker cash games. Obviously, you want to be locked in, but if you're sitting live at a table and you're just, it's pretty slow getting as many hands, you fire up, you draft some teams, whatever. But I guess sitting at the casino isn't the most enjoyable thing relative to being at your house and watching the games.
I mean, that's true. That's the truth of the matter too. Like, you want me to go sit with like 8 probably miserable people and try and take their money? Like, I'm just going to sit on my couch and watch sports, like, instead.
There you go. Well, then I have to ask the question, what was a more meaningful win? The World Series of Poker for multi-millions or winning the dance last year?
Man, it's closer than you would think. It's closer than you would think. I'll say that. I mean, I definitely think like something so rewarding about winning an underdog contest with that many people, like, for sure, that definitely, like, it was just crazy, like, you don't even expect. First of all, you kind of expect it to get like chopped almost, right? And then to win solo was cool. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it was definitely it was a fun time too, because as we'll get into it, I'm a little biased on one of the teams that was in my lineup, so maybe there's a little bit of favoritism and luck in that way. So, but it was great because they were making a shocking Eastern Conference run, and so I got that sweat while it was good for my underdog team, and it just kind of all came together.
John, where do you want to go right now? We got more news. The Nuggets also fired their GM just now. Absolutely clearing house. I'm not actually sure what Nez's schedule is. You want to talk Nuggets? Should we save that for Nez? Should we dive into the dance with Scott? What do you think?
I think that was a pretty clean segue to talk about last year's roster and the dance and what paid dividends for you, Scott, like in terms of your process and whatnot. Are you a 150 guy? Were you hammering the dance? Were you hard on, one specific team, as you alluded to? I believe you're referring to the Pacers there.
Yeah, the Indiana Pacers. Yeah.
Yeah. So what went into your process? Are you a 150 bro? What do you attack? How do you attack these contests?
So truthfully, when it comes to fantasy, I like know that obviously like 150 bros are probably where like the actual edge is at. And that's why I don't even like really consider myself a pro, because I tend not to like actually do that. I mean, a lot of my skill set, and even with like poker and like is kind of just like trying to hit these like, 0.05% outcomes, right? That's kind of what I always talk about. So it's like I kind of know my strengths, and I know that like my actual skill is not in leverage and like actual like math based stuff, but it's more just in trying to put together these long shots that come through. And when you do that, you don't really need to put in as many entries. So, and then also in this specific instance, the other funny anecdote is that I lived in Las Vegas at the time, and you can't even play on Underdog in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
So I actually am like 99% sure that I drafted this in the parking lot in Prim, Nevada, exit one, California, at the lottery. If you know, you know, like the real ones know. And so I'm pretty sure I went there to play Masters DFS, and then was just sitting in the lot. I was like, oh, I'll just flick a couple in the dance. And
no way.
Yeah, so I think I only had like 7 teams in the dance, because I couldn't, I could do like 8 hours, right? But like I was just like, oh, I'll just do a couple 30-second ones while I sit in this parking lot. So
that's so good.
Unreal.
That is a true if you know spot, because that is where everyone who's out there for that WOSOP summer grind, if you want to get your weekend lineups in, you want to get your sweat in, that's the spot you drive to. So dude, that's very cool.
Would that be like I would watch the hell out of a documentary that was like the most incredible wins that came out of like the Prim, Nevada like parking lot, because like so much shit has like gone down there between fantasy and getting bets down and stuff like that. I would love to hear stories. I did that pilgrimage with Levitan one year when we were out there actually for the Gambling Olympics, because he wanted to get WNBA DFS entries in. And so we drove down there, and he's wandering around with his laptop trying to get service. And like, I would watch the hell out of something about that.
Yeah. I mean, even recent, towards the end of my reign there, like they started to put up a chain fence. So like there are times I have to park and then literally walk over this to like to the desert, and it's just if someone just happens to see me, like, what is this kid doing? Like, why is he walking towards this desolate desert? And it's like, to gamble. Like, leave me alone.
And again, for people who gamble, play DFS, play poker, like this story is just completely normal. Like, oh yeah, that's what you have to do. But if you actually zoom out and you're like, I'm in the fucking, the city of sin, and I have to take a step over the border to be able to draft a team of basketball players for fantasy. It's like so fucking absurd. Like when you actually zoom out and talk about it.
My other favorite thing is, I literally have to like drive past the brand new DraftKings office, like the beautiful DraftKings headquarters, and take on my ride to it's like, come on, what are we doing here? But I kind of enjoyed it. It was, it's like a pretty easy drive. It's like one road, like there's a White Castle off exit 12 if you're really feeling dicey.
Wow.
And then, and so
So talk. I mean, you're putting in a few of these entries. You clearly, though, kind of knew how to like construct your teams. Were you thinking about it through the lens of like, hey, I'm only going to have a handful of entries. What's a stance that I can really take that I want to see through? Or was it one of those like, let me just see how the draft comes to me?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely knew that I wanted Pacers exposure in some way. I mean, obviously I was a little biased, but I had a pretty big future on them last year too, from like before the season. I had like 350 to 1 to win it all from before the season. So, and then as the season kind of developed, so like this is actually kind of a strategy antidote too. It was like shaping up where they were just getting like this nut run out in their actual playoff draw, where I knew that Giannis was hurt and they were going to play the Bucks in the first round. And then I knew like obviously then I was like, okay, then they play the Knicks the next round, which is not great, but it means they're fading the Celtics until the Eastern Conference Finals, and that's what I was worried about the most. So I think like, from that standpoint, I definitely went out there with an intention of getting some Pacers exposure. As far as like actual roster construction goes, yeah, it's a pretty unique format. I'm not gonna like, I think obviously the more you start to play underdog best ball stuff, you start to kind of get correlation. And obviously with football, like you want to correlate, but this is like a whole new ball game, right? Where it's like you really need to correlate and honestly, like, you know, I think I kind of just backed my way into this beautiful lineup where there's, literally one guy that's not correlated. Like, I wouldn't say that I like fully got the strap, but it kind of made sense to me that in order to win, you need as many guys as you can in the championship game. So in order to do that, you need to be correlated.
Yeah, that's the exact question I was going to ask you there. Does it live in the back of your mind that like, hey, I have to have 5 live roster spots from like for a finals matchup? Is that like one of your golden rules, or was it just like, slam Pacers and see what happens?
Yeah, I definitely think that I took it a step further than even most people. And I was like, I'm just going to make sure that I have, extreme correlate, right? It's not just like, oh, I have one stack and then I'm going to pick a guy even just picking a guy who plays another guy in your lineup in the first round, right, is obviously like not good. But you'll see that sometimes where people will say, oh, I'll just take this guy and get his points for the first round, and then that'll help me advance. And that, so I don't even know if like I'm 100% right and then this being better, but like, it just kind of was my instinct that this way at least I can get everyone to the conference finals, which is exactly what happened.
I'll read this off real quick for our audio listeners. We got the roster pulled up here. It was just 2 Boston, Drew Holiday and Tatum. And then you had, let's see here, 4 Dallas, Luka, Kyrie, PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford. And then you had the 3 Indiana guys, Hallie, Siakam, and Miles Turner there. And the Indy guys really kind of being the advance rate pieces that you needed to then get to that finals lineup there where you were still able to field a full starting lineup.
Yeah, Pacers going 7 was pretty huge in that series against the Knicks there. Like they made them basically have to be like must have coming out of the East and bumped a lot of the good Boston stuff out of the way too.
Yeah, and that's the other benefit you get from correlating, right? Is these series, the longer they go, now the more points you get from every player on your team. Where if you have someone from another series that's a sweep, you lose those points too. And the only other really caveat that was interesting about this, because I think it was Neil Orfield when it got to the finals, he like posted a tweet like, who's gonna win this, post your lineups that made it to the finals of the dance. And so I just sent my team that I had advancing, and he was just like, yeah, that's gonna win. Like he knew like before it even started. And because really I looked and I was like one of the only few people that had Tatum specifically with because I think the other thing too is just, obviously there's variance in just how the draft kind of runs out, right? And so I do give myself credit though, where it's like, yes, there was luck, but I'm pretty confident I took Tatum 1-1 in this draft over Jokic, which was actually not the consensus. just kind of, understanding how good the Celtics were and thinking that, look, they're like probably going to win the championship. And so I just kind of favored having guys that are, more equity to win the championship than, the best player in the world who's going to put up fantasy points.
Like it. Yeah. The other one that people are talking about is in the chat is the Luka pairing with Tatum. If people remember, like, there was a little nick up injury before the postseason there that Luka's ADP was dropping a little bit, and people weren't overly bullish on Dallas last year. Like, people weren't overly bullish on Pacers or Dallas. So the fact that you wound up getting those stacks, like, yeah, it was probably slightly more contrarian than ADP would have allowed. But that being said, it wasn't like teams were jumping or like players were jumping up and down to jam Dallas at lock when Luka was banged up.
For sure. I think I got lucky, right, to get Luka a couple spots below ADP at the turn, right? Like, definitely. I mean, I don't think it. So yeah, I mean, but that's what the beauty of this format is like, how can it's like no one had the Mavs going to the finals, right? So it's like, who cares that he's Luka Doncic? If he loses in the first round, why would you take him in the second, at the end of the second round, like middle of the second round?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how I think that's. Sorry, Pete. I think that's how a lot of people feel about Giannis right now in the current draft landscape, because Giannis falls to the third round all the time, but his ADP is like 9 in quotations, right?
And I think what Scott was just describing too, it like epitomizes the riddle of any playoff basketball contest. Same thing plays out in NFL, where people look at the board, more so in NBA than NFL because there's more randomness with NFL, but they're like, how can you win without these? There's only 4 teams that, can possibly make it, because I look at the odds and this is what it tells me. And then it's like, yes, in those scenarios, it will be hard to win. It will be hard to be differentiated. You're probably going to be duped, but you could also play some of these non-chalk scenarios. And if you play it right, obviously you got to get lucky with some of the advance rate and series going 7, but it's like you show up to the finals and you have everyone blocked, where Neil Orfield could go on Twitter and say, you already won. That's the cool thing about this format. You can build for those avenues where you literally are winning the contest if you make it to the finals with the correct, team configuration.
That's something that we talked about a lot, Pete, in our football show, where it was like, I knew I was going to be playing limited gauntlet volume. So we did those teams on stream that people were like, what are you guys doing? That's crazy to do Rams plus Commanders like that early in draft boards. But it gives you access to things that nobody else who's playing volume is going to do. And one of the ones that the chat's talking about right now is that Luka Braun combination. Like, hat tip to us a month ago on our first dance show saying, yo, stockpile your Luka Brauns right now because they're not going to be available in a month kind of deal once that keeps going, right? And they are a little bit available right now. I did do 3 dance drafts this morning, and I was able to obtain 1 Luka Braun on the right-hand side of the board there. So it is still available. So, yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. Let's see here. People are still going crazy about what's going on in Denver. My Twitter feed is just filled from people saying, what the hell is going on? Full clean house here. Nuggets firing general manager Calvin Booth and Michael Malone here. A team that's a pretty intriguing candidate in the dance. Do you start to worry about the Nuggets, playoff hopes here as they clean house right before the season starts?
Yeah, I mean, this is abnormal to say the least. Both this and the Taylor Jenkins one. The Western Conference, we were talking about it before here. The 2 seed through 8 seed, Rockets are starting to separate a little bit, but basically 3 seed through 8 seed now is separated by like 2.5 games. So, there's a lot still to unfold this week. I'm looking at the Nuggets right now. Nuggets had a tough schedule in recent memory, but they've lost 4 in a row, including a double overtime game there to Minnesota. And then they've only won 5 of their last 14, something like that. So things have clearly been going in the wrong direction, but tough part of the schedule for the Nuggets. I mean, I'm never going to wave a Joker team. Like, let's just be real. I don't give a shit who the coach is. If Joker can play 38 minutes, we saw it for what it meant for the fantasy playoffs in the double dribble there this last week. But 3 games left for them to kind of solidify themselves from staying out of that play-in tournament, because anyone in the Western Conference right now in that 3 through 8 could find their way to the play-in tournament, and you don't want that.
Yeah. What jumps out to you right now, Scott, as you kind of look at the playoff landscape? And we'll navigate into looking at specific ADPs here in a second, but just more kind of a macro. Are there any teams that you're vibing with? Any kind of predictions on how you think the playoffs will shake out?
Let me just make one more comment about Malone. Like, this is exactly why I don't play poker anymore, right? The guy wins a championship 3 years ago, and now he's getting canned 3 days before the playoffs start. So yeah, it's like maybe just ride out the sunset, Malone. It's just gonna get worse from here. Like,
Scott is gonna start going around the country selling like the John Elway, off ramp. You go out on top, and then you just get out of the limelight.
We got customized gear for your last we'll call it, But yeah, so the West is obviously like crazy. I mean, this is I even was talking to a buddy like a couple days ago, and I was like, the Nuggets are going to potentially be in the playing game. Like just their schedule alone was brutal. Like they and now they have 3 tough games to finish the season. So I guess they're just trying to find a spark or something to even avoid that and increase their equity. Because not only being in the play-in sucks, but then you got to play the Thunder potentially if you don't win that first game. So. But yeah, it's super deep, and that's kind of like the other interesting thing for best ball is because the West is so stacked. Like, it's just going to add to more variance. Like, even the if you look at the play-in tournament, I mean, if the Thunder have to play 7 games against the Memphis Grizzlies or like, it's not going to be fun for a first round series. They could really draw a tough team and. And so obviously I don't think they're going to lose that series, but if you go 6 or 7 games, like you start to get tired. But I also really like a couple teams. I like the Memphis Grizzlies low key. I think they make a lot of sense. Like for fantasy purposes, you can kind of get that stack where everyone is capable of scoring fantasy points. Bane, Morant, even a guy like Santi Aldama, right? You can kind of get the way they share the ball and stuff. And so I like them. And then, you got to look at the Los Angeles Clippers a little bit too, right? I mean, they're kind of dangerous. Like Kawhi Leonard's looking like, vintage Kawhi a little bit. Ivica Zubac has been really, really good this year and kind of made that leap. So I definitely think the West is tricky, and the Thunder are so good. Like, I mean, just defensively but they're young and maybe they have an off shooting week, right? And then you never know. So I think the West is where the variance typically is the most, and that makes it fun from a fantasy standpoint because you can kind of build whatever stack you want, especially of those lower teams, and hope they get hot and make a run.
Yeah, the Memphis one's interesting because like we talk about them so much in the daily streets as like the most pace up environment that you want to play against than the Bulls. So if you get a series with Memphis going like 6 games, and now that Taylor Jenkins is gone, like they're way more condensed too around their stars. If you can, this is the cheapest the Memphis backstack has ever been because the arrow is pointing down on them right now. So basically the pendulum swung from people backstacking Clippers that were free early in the dance contest window to now backstacking the Memphis stuff later in the dance window. So I do think it's a pretty good shout because these are the cheapest price tags in which Memphis has ever been. And they are, as you alluded to, like really talented players that can separate in a decent way. The hardest part about it is no wing depth. So I'm glad you shouted out the Santi Aldama pick because not a lot of people are getting to him in general. So as a 4th tack onto your Memphis stacks for some wing depth, that one feels really good.
Yeah, and I just pulled up the ADPs here. I mean, Ja's the first off the board at 37.1. Jackson comes off after him, and then everyone else completely free. Bane, Eddie, Pippen, Brandon Clark. You got to go all the way down.
Brandon Clark's done for the year.
Okay, and Aldama doesn't even have an ADP there. So talk about a scroll down for you.
I actually didn't even realize Aldama's a big. He's not a wing. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, okay.
So now they really don't have wing. I mean, who's the only? You said Brandon Clark, the only wing.
There's no wing.
Yeah, he's done for the year too. So
wow.
GG Jackson's kind of nice, but he's not draftable, I don't think.
What about the another team I've heard getting some love as potentially being able to make kind of a surprise push would be the Warriors, and just kind of how they've looked with the Jimmy Butler stuff. What do you guys think about them?
Yeah, I mean, they were the hottest team in basketball since the Jimmy Butler trade. So, yeah, I mean, the West is just so wide open, and as their price tags rise, you kind of look for, new constructions to build. So there is like a new meta of taking like Warriors early instead of like some of those Warriors late teams there, which introduces some different combinations. I think they are a very viable playoff ready team that is deep enough that they could, take 2 series in the West. I'm not sure they're good enough to beat the Thunder, but yeah, I right now for me right now is the Rockets, man. Like the Rockets are number 2 in the West. The Rockets are deep. The Rockets have wing depth, and the Rockets are so effing cheap, and they slide in every single room. So if you're trying to backstack wings, in particular, because we know how thin the wing position is here, I've been doing a little bit of Rockets this morning. Previously, it had been a T-Wolves backstack for me, but a little more bearish on that than I am the position of the Rockets right now.
Yeah, we got noted Timberwolves homer Neil Orfield in the stream says nobody knows ball. Haven't heard the Wolves mentioned once there. It is interesting the way some of these ADPs shake out. Like we just looked at, it's like you have Steph at the top, then like a gap to the rest of the Warriors, Şengün, gap, Anthony Edwards here, pretty big gap. It's kind of weird how that actually plays out, because it's like generally you take that first guy and now all of a sudden all of those other players mean so much more to your specific build. So there's probably like a disconnect between like what that ADP gap or how that actually plays out in drafts. Or am I wrong, John? Is that not how it's
no, going? No, I think you're fully right on certain teams. I think Denver has been a byproduct of like ADP's fake and people just pull them up. I think the Cavs, like ADP's fake and they just pull them up. But outside of that, with like these auxiliary teams that people aren't that excited about, I fully agree with you, Pete, that there's a huge disconnect that like if someone takes Şengün, they just think they have, rights to the Rockets because nobody's going to build the Rockets now. So they just, those ADPs stay buried. Yeah.
So it's basically a race to squatters' rights. And then, you can just put 2, 3, 4 more of those guys on the back end of your roster.
Yeah, which introduces a really interesting wrinkle of like building Rockets teams with like just 2 or 3 guys late and leaving Şengün to someone else, or, just using them as an example. You could do the same thing for like the Warriors without like Steph or without Jimmy, like one of those things, because basically those teams won't exist right now, and maybe for good reason, but it is just a path to being contrarian.
Scott, what about in the East? Because it definitely seems like conventional wisdom, West wide open. We just went through a lot of teams who could make a run. Things definitely, at least when we did the show, John, a little bit ago, was like, man, and I think it was even Nez was like, I just don't know who beats the Cavs or the Celtics. Scott, are you seeing anything? Your Pacers, can they do it again here? What else do you like in the East?
I'll tell you who might beat the Celtics or the Cavs. I'll tell you that for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think even from just a dance perspective, I think that the East being so defined as to what these matchups are going to be makes it just a little bit easier to navigate the East from that perspective I was talking earlier, where because it does seem important to me to get as many guys to the conference finals as possible. Now you know who you can draft that path for the most part to make that happen. Where the West, you're kind of just guessing. I mean, especially if you want to do 2 West stacks as your correlation, like that's difficult to do because your team could end up playing your other team and then you cannibalize each other and now you're losing those guys, right? So I definitely think that's why the East is a little bit easier to draft at the moment. And yeah, I mean, look, I definitely think that the Boston Celtics are like the best team in the NBA. I mean, the Thunder might be better, but like, yeah, and they're tough to beat. But the one thing about them that I always talk about is, they play a high variance style of basketball, right? They shoot a ton of threes and they're very good at it. But with that comes the chance that they just don't make them as much for a little while. And then they are a little bit vulnerable to be beat by probably the Cavs. But yeah, like I really, I truly do like the Indiana Pacers. Like, again, like they're a small market team. They never get talked about, but every now and then you hear a pundit, you hear Candace Parker, like, be like, oh, like this team is pretty good. Like they can maybe beat someone. And I'm like, yeah, like they can, I mean, like and so, and when they give me these future markets of 160 to 1, like I'm just gonna bet it. Like, because I truly believe that they can do it. Now, they're in the same breath as the Celtics. They play a high variance offense, and everyone has to click and everyone has to be making shots, but they're capable of doing that. And so, I definitely think that that's where I would turn. And obviously, I'm sure there's a lot of people that love the New York Knicks, and I don't, I get it, right? Like I think the Knicks are pretty good too, and so yeah, I don't, the Knicks could probably give the Celtics a series, right? If the same thing happens where the Celtics go cold, and so yeah, I mean, I think it's just a preference thing. Like, I think those are the only 4 teams with real equity, but
So John, like, how do you then think about that in practice for the dance? Because obviously last year we just saw Scott's lineup. Like it was the perfect lineup, and that you had your final starting, and then you got kind of the surprise team who made it to the Eastern Conference Finals and then also took it the distance there. So how do you think about in the East? Like, would your preferred strategy be like just lean into the chaos in the West? That's where you do your dart throws and then just play it straight down the middle, Cavs Celtics as much as possible? Or is there a team for you that could be this year's Pacers that finds their way into the finals?
I think there's like certain spots where you just get forced into those builds, Pete, because everybody's trying to build the Cavs Celtics stuff over and over again. So when I get backed into that corner, Pacers are cheap, as you alluded to there. And like the Siakam Hallie pairing is just available almost all the time in that 5th and 6th round. So you can do that. But then the other one is you can just lock up Cade, who's a superstar in our league right now, triple-double monster. You can lock up Cade, and then you can have whoever you want, and they play relatively deep as well. So I did a couple 3-man Detroits this morning because I do think Detroit, from like a national standpoint, gets slept on in a big way because they don't get big TV games. They basically only had one nationally televised game against the Rockets this year, against the Heat this year. And it was just like, this team has actually been like legit good, but they were like the worst team in basketball last year. So people don't want to trust it. But they're healthy and Cade's good. And Duran's had a couple monster ceiling games in recent week, and Asar Thompson can fill it up across multiple categories. So I think if you had to go, maybe 2 months ago, I would have told you it was the Magic because of the wing depth and their ability to guard. But that has kind of gone by the wayside in the most recent couple months. And I think I'd rather do my cheap backstacking of Detroit now. I think Detroit kind of serves the same purpose and probably has a higher ceiling output than the Magic do now without Suggs and the way they've been playing.
Yeah, one last thing. The Pistons are like really good, like definitely really good. And Cade is not only just like a great basketball player, but they talk about his leadership and stuff. And I definitely think like he's going to do a lot of stuff in this league. I think the only thing that's tough for me is that if they do beat the Knicks somehow, obviously again we're guessing. I mean, they played the Bucks the last 2 games. That could easily flip who plays who, right? But I'm assuming now with this lead that the Bucks have built, I think they're in a spot where if they just win 1, they'll probably lock up the 5. So now the Pistons have to play, if they do beat the Knicks somehow, now they have to play the Celtics in the next round, right? Now we're talking back to like where they're playing the best team in the league probably. So I do just like the run out of, the Pacers, or even if you think the Bucks are going to beat the Pacers, right? Like, I think the Cavs are good, but I think that's probably who you want to play in the second round. That's the only thing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. The counter to it is it's 2 birds with 1 stone. If the Pistons happen to upset, that now you just take down so many teams with you. But the likelihood that you're referring to is definitely better for the Pacers or Bucks side of that. Bucks are really interesting to talk about right now because you basically have squatters' rights on them if you take Giannis in that 2nd or 3rd round and he continues to fall. And now they're getting Bobby Portis back tonight, which is, pretty huge for them. And then they have, some wings that you can take with Kuzma for free late. And then the other question is, Dame, if we knew the Bucks were full and Dame was coming back from this blood clot issue, like those two would be paired in the third and fourth round over and over again, or second and third round over and over again. Now he's, going undrafted a lot. So if you want to take the swing on Dame to pair with Giannis, I mean, I don't know. It's a full ape into variance play. I'm not sure he comes back this year, but yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Do you guys think if you take one of these non-Cavs Celtics teams, do you think they have to make it to the Eastern Conference Finals to say be in an optimal lineup? Or if you had like a Cade and someone else pairing, and say they got like 2 7-game series and then got bounced before, like, do you think those guys could still get home, or are you still playing for the outcome where they make it to the Eastern Conference Finals?
I think Cade in particular could get you through and be in the optimal without making it to the Eastern Conference Finals, but I don't really want to build with that in mind, if that makes sense.
I think it's different than last year too, where if you think the Cavs are, and they obviously deserve the respect, they won a ton of games this year, and it makes sense that they're right. If you think that the likelihood of the Eastern Conference Finals being Cavs Celtics, and it's hard to build that way because their ADPs are so high, then it changes things up a little bit, right? So it's like, obviously I think that the run out I got last year with the injuries and stuff, and then it's a little bit different where it's less likely to happen that way this year. So then in that case, then like having a guy like Cade, and then you get the run out where it is Cavs, Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals, then that makes a lot of sense because he can give you that leverage if he somehow wins, the first round or whatever.
Yeah. Let's see here. John, just from, or Scott, have you been able to do any drafts yet? I can't even remember. Are you in a Underdog?
Yeah. So I've definitely been down. So I haven't been going that hard at them. And maybe this is just a bad strategy mistake by me, but I get, because the West is so weird, and because a lot of my strategy, and maybe it's, again, results oriented, but like, because I was so important to kind of define people's paths to getting there, I haven't been drafted because I'm waiting until it consolidates into, a more clear picture of what the seeding is going to be. And then I plan to do some more drafts once that happens. Now, obviously, you lose that edge of maybe like being able to get certain combos. So I haven't put too much thought into it, but that's just kind of been what I was thinking.
I think for sure. I mean, and we talk about that dynamic all the time, right? Where you forego the ability to get super teams, but you're also going to burn so many more entries, running into dead ends, injuries, like you said, the bracket, not playing into the story you told with a specific lineup. What were you going to say, John?
Yeah, basically the same thing, where it's like people are worried about like the Luka and Braun pairings or stuff like that. But so many of those teams will probably have like Dame and Giannis on them, because that was a common East starting early like that. Or, those teams would have backstack Magic wings who could be one and done in the play-in bracket and not even score for you. So there is definitely some push-pull leverage to there. I do think I think the contest is 54% as of this morning. I do think there's like a non-zero chance that there's like 28% of that contest is just dead lineups right now, because of how crazy the movement has been. Like the Suns were getting drafted, not every draft, but at a really high frequency, and they might not even make the play-in tournament now.
Yeah. So what I have been doing, with that being said, because the East is a little bit more predictable, I'm building my stacks now where I take one team from the West and I do 2 from the East, because now I can kind of gauge that path, and it's less irrelevant. It's irrelevant who else is, what the West standings is if I don't have to worry about them cannibalizing each other.
Yeah.
The other thing about it too, and we talk about this with playoff stuff, there's also the pod luck dynamics where you could have 2 identical teams. They could be the nuts, and one of them advances from the pod and one of them doesn't too. So like, that's the other thing where this is actually a format where drafting like a similar version of the same team over and over isn't near as bad as it is in another format where there's no pod and you're essentially competing against yourself and cannibalizing your own portfolio.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Paul. I was inverted with that OG take and strategy with the Niners when they went to the Super Bowl that year, where he duped himself like 5 or 6 times just to make sure he finally had that Niners team get through in a pod because of that variance, Pete. I just actually wanted to bring my very first dance team up here to just illustrate, how things have changed and stuff like that. This is an OKC one where I was able.
Screen? You want to share?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Sorry. Here's an OKC team where Memphis used to be going, kind of thing. So we can view this full draft board and whatnot. Nez was in this draft as well. You get the 101. You get the SGA plus Chet, which is pretty regularly available. But look at this Memphis price tag. Ja with an ADP of 18 here. So doing Ja and Bane and JJJ all in like those first 4 rounds like that. Then doing a Miami stack who, might not even get a series. They have to win a play-in now on that back stack. And Orlando, they're probably going to play Miami. So there's 2 dead roster spots easily. And then I'm looking for, Miami to effectively not get swept by the Celtics with this lineup. Like this team's drawing basically stone dead. And even though it's like, oh, wow, you probably got some unique combination by, this one's not even necessarily a good example of unique combination. Maybe if J-Dub had come back at the wing position and I could have been like, oh, this OKC team is a little bit rare. Like if we hypothetically had J-Dub on this team, well, even with that rare combo, it's probably drawing stone dead because it's cannibalized itself.
Yeah. So I would not let any early teams dissuade you from still drafting. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad strategy either. Although I will say this contest locks on April 19th. We're recording this on the 8th. So that is not too much more time to be getting these entries in. About 11 days, contest at 55% full. And I'm guessing there are a lot of people who are maybe similar to Scott too, keeping some of their bullets in the chamber and ready to fire them as the playoff picture firms up. You looking at some of these other teams, John? Are you going to make us sit here and listen to you recap every single dance team you drafted?
No, I'm just kind of parsing through to see if my like original thought process was right or not. And I think it is with like the Milwaukee stuff here, for instance. Like here's a 4-man Milwaukee team, but like it has Dame at like ADP 18. And there's only, 2 other guards in there. And the T-Wolves may end up being in the play-in game and or line up against the Lakers. So, yeah, it's very funny to see how the shifting picture of it, because, we don't reseed in basketball, right? Like we don't know the full bracket, but we don't reseed. So we know that we can cannibalize ourselves and what teams are going to play what teams. And, yeah, it's just interesting. Yeah.
But that's what's so cool about, again, you're trying to turn $10 into $50K, right? It shouldn't be easy. And, in that regard, it's like, yeah, so and I'm sure you guys talk about this with, even Best Ball Mania, right? Because that's such a big period of when you can draft. And obviously things change. I've been doing the big board stuff, and it's like, you need to be like constantly drafting in that because the dynamic is just always changing. And so, yeah, I think like it almost, probably like the optimal strategy is some kind of bell curve, right? Where you like do some early to get these unique ADPs and gamble, but like, and then, when at the end, when you have a more defined, route to what it's going to be, then you do a big chunk there.
Yeah, for sure. let's see here. Daniel says, remember, it is not required to remind people there is overlay. And my response, I am quite literally paid to remind people there is overlay. So there you go, Daniel. Shout it from the mountaintop. So much EV and overlay in the dance contest. Everyone pile in now. 220 people watching live on X and YouTube. The dance is going to have overlay. All right.
Tell your friends.
Dan.
Tell your friends.
Are you happy? All right. You guys want to do a draft here?
Absolutely.
All right. Let's do it. I'll get this on screen here, and we can talk through this together. Although John is known every once in a while to like try to sneak in, get in our room here. But it'd be nice to build this one together.
Soak up some of that streamer EV.
All right, we'll see what we land. We got the 1-3 here. Top 3 by ADP. A pretty clear top 3 based on 1.3, 2.2, 2.8, and then a 4.2 jump to Luka. So Shea, Jokic, Tatum. Is this an easy Tatum click for you guys here, or do you start thinking about other angles?
Yeah, I mean, I would take Tatum personally and try to get unique later, because I just think the Celtics are probably going to be in the NBA championship again. Like, I mean, there's no reason not to think that. Like, and if they, don't, then what are you gonna do? Like, I don't know. Like, it's just the best pick probably.
The other bullish thing about the Tatum pick is, even if you think the Celtics are a better team and the Celtics could go to the championship instead of them, the Celtics have no wings. Like, it's really hard to build out the Cavs have no wings, but it's really hard to build out the Cavs early, because you're going to take 2 big spots and 2 guard spots like every time. It's basically just Hunter, and you just push them up a little bit there. It's a reason why Denver, even though all this weird stuff with the coach and GM being fired and the recent skid that they're on, coupled with Joker, it's a reason that Denver's going to stay high, because they have wing depth that you can draft all the time, because wing is a problem out here.
Are we going to buy the dip? So Tatum went 2. I believe one of you said, I'm never passing on a Jokic team.
Let's
is
do it.
That the case for us here? Let's do it.
Hey, they got, look, sometimes you got to fire your coach like 3 days before the playoff starts to really get that spark, I mean,
is that the thought process? Like, is that because, you normally, when teams do that move at the end of the year, like in NFL, right? It's like, you're not making the playoffs. Like, let's just get the team excited about something, lay the groundwork for the next year. It's so weird to do it for a team that is in the thick of it for the playoffs. Like, how is the team going to respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, unless they had a contingent plan in place right now where they think schematically, like hiring Taylor Jenkins or something is better now, I don't know how you do it, especially with a guy who's been through the gauntlet with them, won a championship with basically that exact same core. I can't imagine that the message is just like falling on deaf ears now. Like, you just ride it out, I think.
So, John, what are your thoughts about potentially reaching here for another Nuggets player way above ADP? Like, that's something I'll do sometimes, right? Because I care so much about correlation, and like, especially if you look at the board, sometimes it's impossible to get 4 guys without doing it. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm 100% in lockstep with you. I built one this morning that was a Nuggets team that is just 4 straight Nuggets, and you could take Jamal here, then you could take the 2 wings, and then you can backstack Pacers or Pistons or whatever. So if you want to go like Jamal right here, absolutely.
Let's try that, Pete. What do you think?
Yeah, the only thing is, if sentiment is so down on the Nuggets that like no one's gonna grab like Murray here. If there's
all right, so you want to gamble? All right, so then take
Zinger then and go with the East.
Yeah,
then. Or Mobley.
No, Zinger.
Okay.
Now we have 2 bigs, which is sick too. We have a stranglehold on all the best centers.
Yeah, and good reminder to everybody, because everybody punted bigs in the double dribble there, that you can score 2 bigs in this format because of the flex position, whereas in the double dribble you were basically only starting 1 big.
Don't even get me started. I'm still tilted about the double dribble. I had like 50% Giddy and 50% Denny Avdia, and I
Couldn't get it home.
couldn't get it home.
Those are some good flicks.
So we start Jokic, Kristaps. Interesting from the 2-hole to go Tatum, Mobley, then Derek White. Is this then where you circle back to Murray?
Yeah, I think if Derek White had come back to us, you take Derek White. But yeah, I think it's Holiday or Murray, whichever you guys prefer.
Yeah, let's take Jamal then.
Yeah, because the Celtics drafters behind us. So I mean, I'm guessing both Murray and Drew would make it back to us. But
the other thing too, if the Nuggets do want to advance in the playoffs, they need Jamal Murray to play like bubble Jamal Murray, right? Like, so I just think it's important we get him with our Jokic. Like,
yeah, absolutely. This roster is more hinging upon Jamal playing well than it is on Drew Holiday playing well. That being said, we'll probably end up with both.
I mean, if anything, what are your thoughts about maybe passing up on Aaron Gordon or Michael Porter Jr. and trying to get dicey with a Nuggets punt later, right? Like, just because once you get to the finals, now it's such a small sample. If there's an injury or something, right, that's your path to winning. So maybe like a Peyton Watson or something, even though he doesn't actually contribute probably to get you there, but then he can win it for you in the finals. Like,
yeah, a really good pivot that I like right now is Christian Brown over Westbrook. So everybody takes Westbrook late there. Like Christian Brown's starting and playing 36 minutes a night. Now maybe that changes with a new head coach. We will see. But yeah, Christian Brown's been playing some really good ball recently.
He's good,
Drew went, I forgot on the other side, we had the Jaylen Brown drafter as well. So now 3 different teams with Celtics players in this draft, which is never ideal. How do you guys think we navigate this?
It's okay though, because they're, you know, there's some other guy. You can Peyton Pritchard, you can try to, we proved last year that you only need 2 to.
Yeah.
I would do the Hallie Siakam thing here. And then
I know Scott's not going to complain about that.
Yeah.
Definitely not. And again, that's why I like it too, because they're not going to play the Celtics till the Eastern Conference Finals. So if it runs out that way, you can get points from both guys up until that round. Like,
Scott, if you had to pick a contrarian pacer player that you like the most to like tack on as a third or a fourth, who do you like?
So I mean, I think right now the answer is it's almost got to be Obi Toppin, honestly, like, which is crazy. I never would have thought that a couple weeks or a month ago, but like, he's just figured it out offensively. Like, he's really been just amazing. And I think what they might do in the playoffs, because Thomas Bryant, God bless his soul, I love the guy and he tries hard, but sometimes he's just like a little bit too much of a liability. And so there might be situations, especially against the Celtics or, even the Knicks, like where they might just go small at backup center and play Obi at the 5.
Yeah, I like that shot a lot, especially in terms of.
Oh no, I was gonna make a TJ McConnell joke. Go for it.
Hey, TJ is great too. I think that's why again, I think the tough part is in the playoffs. Obviously, minutes get a little tricky, right? Like, but even in his 15 minutes, he still might put up a lot of points. So I don't hate TJ either.
Yeah, I think the biggest reason I wanted to ask you that question is because the Jarris Walker ADP is bad. Like, you're better off taking Naismith behind. You're better off taking Obi Toppin. You're better off, taking Benny Math or something like this.
Yeah.
I do think we should add one more wing here from the Denver stuff. I'm fine to punt on secondary Denver pieces, but I do think we need a little bit of wing depth here. So I would advocate for Porter.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm with it. Yeah, I do. I look, I like Neesmith too as a wing. I mean, yeah, like, I think he's going to play a ton of minutes in the playoffs, and I mean, he does a little bit of everything. But he's capable. He's capable of an outlier fantasy game, it's not out of the realm.
Yeah.
So what are we going to basically try to build for either a Denver Pacers or Denver Celtics final? Is that kind of the play?
That's been my general strategy when I do this. Yeah, like, so that's what makes it tough with the Celtics, because you can't, expect, like, again, now we're going to be grasping at straws to get the rest of our Celtics guys, but it's just part of the game.
Is Pritchard still there?
He just went. Yeah. So, I mean, the Boston stuff is bleak now. You're down to Hauser and Cornette.
Yeah. I think this is probably a one-off Celtics team now. It doesn't feel good, but I'd probably take another Pacers piece here. I'd probably take Turner, even though we got two bigs, just because one can score in the flex. And if the Pacers make any sort of noise, it's going to be because Miles Turner's playing, north of 32 minutes and doing his stock monster stuff.
Yep.
And then what? We still get to 4 Denver, just so you could still be live for a Denver Celtics final.
Yeah, and I think the lacking of this team would be wing, and the chalk would be to add Aaron Gordon to it. I think we can pivot and we can use wing depth from the Pacers side and take like Naismith and Toppin, for instance, on this team, and then add Christian Brown or Peyton Watson, preferably Christian Brown in my estimation. But if Scott likes Watson more, I'm cool with it.
No, Christian Brown's perfect. Yeah, that's basically what I've been doing lately, is going with Naismith Toppin, and I'll take Andrew Nembhard shares too, like, just because what he did in the playoffs last year was really impressive. And again, they're just a team that, again, you talk about the Grizzlies and the pace with, like, I mean, the Indiana Pacers have statistically like one of the best offenses of all time. I mean, I don't think people realize that, like,
they just don't turn it over.
Like last year, metrics wise, I mean, they were second behind the Celtics. They were the first team in like ever, I think, to have like 10,000 points and 10,000 assists, like some crazy numbers. They the other night against now granted, the Washington Wizards are not a real NBA team. I understand that, but they did put up 162 points on them, which was like the 16th most points in a game all time. Like, and their defense has gotten better, so that's just what we're working with here.
Yeah, I love the fact that they're fully healthy too.
So you think Christian Brown here?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yep. I think you round out that nobody's going to take auxiliary Pacers from us. I think maybe there is a case to be made that you could just take like Cade and like a Sir Thompson or something, and you could have done like another mini stack out of the East. But just to give yourself another out, but it will leave you with a dead roster spot at some point. So if we're aping into Scott's idea of like not cannibalizing our roster and just like maintaining the stacks, it'd probably be bad to do that. They would be like pushed through pieces.
I mean, that's just what worked for me, right? That's the thing. I don't want to make it sound like I know for sure that that's correct. Like, that's just my gut instinct because of just how nicely it fell into place last year. Like,
yeah. So we're going to do double tap Pacers to close this out?
There ain't no stopping Obi Toppin, my friend.
Yeah, and then Aaron Naismith.
Yeah, I like it.
Look at this. So what you guys are saying is like the ADP for the back end, or these guys just aren't getting clicked enough for there to be any even meaningful difference in how they're sorted here.
Yeah, and then it's just then I just want to go by playing time, right? Like, I mean, Naismith's going to play 30-some minutes a game, and then Obi probably gets into like the low 20s, maybe high not teens, like. And Jarris Walker's great. Like, he's had such an interesting year where they sent him to the G League, and look, he's like 20 years old, but look, people don't forget he was the 7th overall pick in the NBA draft. Like, the dude's really talented and he's really coming into his own. But come playoff time, I think expectations of him actually like contributing in a meaningful fantasy way is just not high enough. So I rather take the solid options that are also not going that much.
Yeah.
All
right, so we'll grab Is this right? Aaron Naismith?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, let's do it.
The reason I'm a Pacers fan, Aaron Naismith.
Really?
Oh wow.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
So we got it 3-4-3. We got our Jamal Murray, Michael Porter, Jokic, and then ended up heavy on the Pacers. Not because Scott loves them, but because it was naturally what came to us in this room. Hallie, Obi Toppin, Naismith, and Miles Turner. And then we got a one-off Kristaps. The Detroit double tap did go to the one hole there. They ended up doing Cade and Jalen Duren at the 8-9 to kind of pair with a Clippers. They're a little all over the board. They had OKC, Clippers, and Cleveland going on with that build.
Yeah, I imagine he added a Sir Thompson with that last pick there. And I like that. I'm fine building 4 teams. Just given the landscape right now.
The only counter, again, like I've just read, the only counter I have, and if you want to make that bet, that's fine. It worries me that you're literally just banking on getting a ton of points to get that advance rate in the first round, and then they're probably going to lose to the Boston Celtics, right? It's like, that's my only thing. But yes, like if you want to make a bet, I think you have to make that bet hoping that they beat the Celtics if you want to win the dance. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Yeah. It's just a thin path.
Yeah, it's tough. But so is taking the Nuggets and the Pacers. So.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, at least they didn't just fire their coach.
Hey, I mean, look, the Denver Nuggets are really a talent. They have the best player in the world, like by a wide margin. Like come playoff time, that seems important, right? Like again, Jamal Murray just needing to be bubble Murray, like is really what it comes down to. And then I don't see why they can't beat anyone. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Let's see. Scott, you got time to do another one here?
Nothing but time. You know.
Get a different build going here.
Yeah.
What else have you drafted? What else have you been drafting on Underdog? Have you been doing any golf stuff? Are you a baseball guy? Are you in the NFL streets?
I was doing dingers. I don't even know baseball, and I was doing dingers. I mean, that's the beauty of it. Again, I do tend to. So I was, our mutual friend Mark Miletic, is a big influence on my fantasy games, and because he gets all the information from you and he regurgitates it to me, so it's like a nice, easy way to do it. And so I can, I get all the help I need, and then even like the dinger stuff, like I was an Oakland A's fan growing up, and they have this kid Jacob Wilson, who's like, a 6th overall pick. And I know nobody's going to draft Oakland A's guys, right? Because they stink. So I have like a big bag of Jacob Wilson, and the dude's hitting like 350 with a couple homers. Like, so I'm happy.
Our other co-host is Jacob Wilson Stan, and he has 35% of him in 150 entries of Jacob Wilson as well. So that's funny that was the name you pulled out, because I kept telling him to draft Soderstrom instead, because at least he hits bombs.
Which ended up being a pretty sharp take, because he is off to a tear too. I have a couple Soderstrom.
Yeah,
I have a couple shares of Soderstrom, but yeah, I definitely probably should have. Well, I think that's the problem, right? Just batting 360 isn't even really good for Underdog fantasy, unfortunately, but it's not terrible.
Yeah, it would be so much better if you got minus points for strikeouts, because if you got minus points for strikeouts, guys like that would pop in a big way. But just given the landscape of the scoring format, it's not as advantageous.
But to be fair, he does have 2 home runs already. Like I think he's going to end the season with 20 home runs. Like
yeah.
All right, we are on the clock. Mitchell goes ahead of Luka, so Luka falls just 1 spot relative to ADP. There's also Jaylen Brown. I assume Luka, LeBron's a pretty popular turn thing if you can pull it off at this point.
Yeah, let's try it.
No. How do you feel about Jaylen Brown?
Okay, you want to play Celtics? Okay, let's do
it.
You want Celtics? All right.
Yeah, because they're going to win the championship, so let's just take a guy who's going to win the championship probably.
All right.
Well, now when you do that here, Scott, will you pull up Porzingis next and just make sure we get 2?
I'm not. Yeah, it's upset. Like sometimes I think like the Celtics are tricky. I think Drew Holiday is another like viable guy to maybe pair. Like just because again we're talking about a minutes thing. Like probably going to play a ton of minutes. I don't even hate Al Horford. I don't think I've ever seen Al Horford like miss a shot in my life. Like I'm pretty confident he's made like 95% of his 3-pointers. But yeah, I think if Porzingis is there, let's roll the dice with Porzingis.
Yeah,
all right. Are you worried about being known as the Zinger guy, Scott, with 100% on-stream exposure to Zinger today?
You know, who doesn't love Kristaps Porzingis? Knicks legend, like Latvia. I played poker. I was in the main event last year. I had two guys on my table that were both from Latvia, and I was like, "You guys can collude all you want, but we're going to talk about Kristaps Porzingis for like 10 minutes." It's fine.
Oh man, yeah, they thought you were gonna hit them with the English only, and you're like, no, I just want to talk about Kristaps. Yeah,
that's I did that. I made the WSOP coverage. I was two French guys were talking, and I'm a nice guy, as people know, but we're in the thrills of competition. It's like day 7 or whatever, and they're like the hands over, and they're talking to each other in French, and I'm just like English only, and then the guy turns to me and he's like. We were just saying, I was like, yeah, I know you were saying, I don't care what you were saying, just say it in English. Like,
is that an actual like World Series of Poker rule?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You can only, that's, I was only enforced. Maybe it was a little bit of a dick about it, but yeah, I was enforcing the rule. Like, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. I like.
What I heard Trump actually said this year, only American people can actually play the main event. We're just going to keep all the internationals.
That's actually great news for me, Pete, because I won't go down there and punt my 15th bullet.
Is that
do you play poker, John?
Yeah. I used to be okay. I still play a decent amount. Yeah.
But you play the main every year, John?
Except for the last 3, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't gone the last 3. I think I've played 11 times, maybe 12. Something like that.
Nice.
Let's do Grizzlies here.
Sure. Yeah, I'm
okay. Yeah, I like it.
Should we take one more Celtic? Maybe.
Yeah, I'd take Holiday if he comes back to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other Celtics drafter did Derek White with Tatum, and then I guess you never know with Celtics. Anyone will take one off Celtics in these drafts, ourselves included, apparently.
Yeah. I did recognize at the end of the last draft there that the cheap Grizzlies stack went on one team, and then the cheap Bucks stack went on another. So those are full-fledged ADP flippings of the board there, where it's just like, people have gotten so much more bearish on the situation that they're readily obtainable. So just something to note for people drafting at home, that you're going to want some of those bags, because as we showed with my original team there, they were so much more expensive early on.
You kind of talked me into yeah. I mean, obviously I'm a pay, but like if Dame is somehow healthy, like I'm afraid of the Bucks, maybe even more than the Cavs, honestly, just from a personal, like there's a rivalry there. And then, like Giannis is a top 5 player in the NBA, and they're big too. Like Taurean Prince is a big body. Kuz is a big body. Like Bobby Portis back is a big body. Like if you can't go to toe with their size, who's been really good this year is Gary Trent Jr. Like that might be like the best contract in the whole NBA. He's on like a min deal basically, and like saving their season. So
yep. And the Kevin Porter Jr. acquisition, he's been filling it up in a huge way from a fantasy standpoint. So they are sneaky, especially if Dame comes back. And even if Dame doesn't come back, like taking a one-off Kevin Porter Jr., or not a one-off, but taking a stacked on Kevin Porter Jr. in the last round there, that's pretty sick.
Shout out Underdog employee Jay Person for making me buy a Kevin Porter Jr. Top Shot once.
Oh shit! There you go.
It was that financial advice.
Good. Yeah, exactly.
It's worth about as much as Fred VanVleet bags now, Pete.
Hey, nice. So we did start with 3 straight Celtics, Jaylen Brown, Zinger, Drew, and then we started our Grizzlies build with Ja there. But Jared asked a question in the chat. If you think the Celtics sweep round 1, don't you think it's bad to draft 3 to 4 of them off the rip? I haven't answered this, but I'm more curious, more engaging on whatever. But what do you think of that, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, again, I will be honest, I haven't put too much thought into it, mostly just because, but I don't think it's relevant. I think we are trying to get the Celtics to the finals, right? I mean, I think we want more leverage in the finals, but yeah, I mean, look, from last year, that lineup only had 2 Celtics, so maybe they're onto something where you don't need that many Celtics in your lineup if you are getting unique stacks to go with it there. So I think it just probably depends on the run out and what you're trying to accomplish. But I mean, maybe we just stop at 3 then, right? I mean, is that fair?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, series length is going to play. It's the random wild card, right? And this is why if you're building out a portfolio, you're going to want to have multiple iterations of Celtics builds within it, right? So I think in a vacuum, 3 is probably the nuts and probably the safest of it. 2, 3, something like that, because there is concern that they can mop the floor with someone. But the way in which you push them through then is you have another team that goes 7. And that's exactly what happened for you last year, where both the Mavs and the Pacers went deep. And that's what allowed you to push those teams through. And we have no way of knowing which teams will go deep, but pairing Memphis with them, a team that's probably not going to mop the floor with anybody and is going to play high tempo games in close series for 5 or 6, 7, that feels like a good way to try and push them through. So yeah, you're a little bit concerned about sweep stuff, but you also, it's not within our control. So, we could do the Memphis thing, or we could do another team here. We could do the Pacers thing again to get some wing depth, or we could do the the Clippers thing there.
Let's go with an East team. Why don't we do Pistons?
Okay, hang on, just to make sure. I didn't have enough time, so I'm just going to grab Jaren Jackson, and then we can start the other. I guess my only comment, if you were choosing another team to introduce, wouldn't we want it on the West? We've just invested so much in the Celtics and pretty much need them to make the finals.
No, because, well, that's what I'm saying. But the West, though, it's even if you take another team, you don't know they might run into each other, right? So I think I'd rather, if we could take the Bucks and get the equity of them playing being the 5 seed. Yeah, let's do Bucks. Do Dame and
all right. I'll grab
Dame. With Dame. Yeah.
Started with Dame there.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying because we don't know the path yet, you're liable to run into a landmine, whereas you feel more confident about how the bracket is firmed up in the East, which allows you to make those decisions just more informed right now.
Exactly. And then we just make a bet that the Grizzlies somehow get to the final. I mean, that's what I'm saying. It's not a great bet, but we're trying to turn $10 into $50K. So we need the Memphis Grizzlies to win to get to the championship.
Yeah. And the other thing I would say about this question too is I think this is how you get what I would call this is just being too precise. It's okay to have that take and stuff, but the way these games play out, it's being way too precise to say this is exactly how a team's going to win, or this is going to be the path. It's like in NFL when we're oh, this team's going to win and then rest their starters, the entire second half because they're blowing them out. And it's just there's so many things that happen that I think it's easier to place directionally accurate bets in this contest, play for finals matchups, but don't get too granular beyond that.
Yeah, and if you think if the Celtics play the Bulls, that series is going 5 or 6. Yeah.
Who should we add here?
I think you add Bane and a Bucks wing, so probably Kuzma.
Yeah, so it'd be okay.
We might have to fight the honest drafter. We're not fighting anyone for Memphis right now, so we can have a free tack on Memphis piece at the end, which means we should probably take Kuz or Brook Lopez here. And I'd probably lean Kuz minutes have been ticking up in a big way, and we just need some wing depth.
Yeah, let's do Kuz.
And then we have 2 center options to tack on there, whereas we didn't really have it with wing depth options.
And that's by doing this too. Now you don't even need a wing from Memphis, right? Because if you're guaranteed to have one of your 2 Eastern Conference teams in the finals, you can get the production of wing from that guy, and then you have all your Grizzlies on the other side to score as well.
Exactly. Yep. Well said.
Nice. Yeah, so we got a 4-2-2, so we have 2 more picks here. We got our 3 Boston at the top, 3 Memphis, 2 Milwaukee so far.
Is there another Bucks wing we could potentially punt?
Doesn't look like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Prince is going to play a shit ton of minutes and fall into a couple steals here, but even if he plays like 36 minutes, he's like a 0.5 fantasy point per minute producer.
He's a wing. He's a wing though.
Yeah, he's a wing.
Yeah, but it might not matter for the finals. Like so it's like, this is what I'm saying. The philosophy of like burning the roster spot to get there potentially, versus like, okay, if you get to the finals and now you're the only person with Taurean Prince and he happens to, So
you want to add Prince here?
Maybe. I mean, it might be bad. That's what I'm saying.
Who's the other pick? Who's the other pick? Prince? To get so we'll have 2 Milwaukee wings.
Yeah.
I mean, he is a putrid fantasy player, but but he scores. Like, what if he just scores 20 points? Like.
Who would you add with the last one then? A Memphis piece or a big from Milwaukee then?
No, add
another. Get your Aldama take.
Add another Grizzly, yeah.
Yeah, let's do Santi then.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you mentioned him at the top. We got to get him.
Exactly.
On this team. Yeah, so now we finish. Boston, Memphis, Milwaukee. We got Drew Holiday, John Morant, Lillard, Bane at wing. Brown, Kuzma, Taurean Prince, and then Zinger, Jaren Jackson, and Aldama for the big.
Yeah, I mean that's a fun contrarian way to build the Bucks there too, because it's really rare to build Bucks without Giannis, which might be crazy, but it also might be the contrarian path you need because we have stars that other ADPs wouldn't have allowed you to have because you would have had to take Giannis there. So it's definitely contrarian by taking like Brown, Zinger, Holiday, and then doing Bucks, because almost nobody does that.
Yep. Yeah, but now, so that's exactly the point, right? It's like, so now people that get to the final, let's say it is Bucks, Grizzlies, and I guess it's a little different if the Bucks and the Celtics can't play each other, but so maybe that's where it gets weird. But I was going to say, yeah, it's like, when the Bucks play the Celtics, like if Jaylen Brown outscores Giannis, like you can still have a path to winning. Like,
and he doesn't even necessarily have to outscore him, because it doesn't have to be a 1-for-1 Jaylen Brown. It's the combination of, Holiday, Zinger, and Brown greater than Giannis plus Dame combos, basically.
Right. Or Giannis and 2 guys who might even be out already or something, right? I mean, that's the other thing too. Like,
nice. Well, sweet. I got 2 more in the books. We did the last time, last time we drafted these was on February 25th. John, oh, look at this. We did a Memphis Indy OKC team back there on 225.
That's pretty good.
That's a fun one.
A lot of players we drafted here. Has Lou Dort on here. And then what was the other one we drafted? Luka, Lillard, and Kyrie, Giannis, Amen. Ooh, another Kuzma. Way back when, Şengün, AD, Nasrid. So Dallas stuff kind of crashed out.
Yeah, Dallas stuff killed that one with 2 dead roster spots, basically.
But not too bad on that other one, still being live, which is probably about like what we were talking about with what's expected, right? Like you're going to burn an early lineup, maybe have one live that gets a little, CLV or some unique combos. And that's just kind of the game you play when you draft early.
Kind of reminiscent of like drafting Miami in the Gauntlet contest last year. like Miami was like a popular back stack early on there. And then basically the Bengals flip-flopped them for a bit there in terms of popular back stack. And then they both wound up being dead come postseason.
Yeah. Yep.
Can I ask one question before we go?
Do it.
What are your thoughts on Jalen Wright?
Jalen Wright?
Just as like a full-fledged scroll. I mean, he's just like a dude who's been hanging around for like a long enough time that, some coaches found him relative, like, I don't know, man.
No. The Miami Dolphins running back.
He's talking football. He's talking football.
DeLon Wright.
I threw it.
Oh,
I totally threw a curveball at you there. Yeah, no.
You were asking relevancy for the Knicks stuff for the dance contest. I was like, you want to scroll that far?
I don't know who's Jalen Wright. Who are you?
I thought you were referring to DeLon Wright. I was like, oh yeah, DeLon Wright. I was like,
well. So when Scott, you mentioned something to me. You brought Jalen Wright up as an aside in our DM. It made it seem like you've been having lots of debates about Jalen Wright. Is kind of the vibe I got by your comment.
Yeah, because I want to figure out the Dolphins. Yeah, I want to see because Mike McDaniels is a run game guy, right? And then you have and I don't think it's sustainable to have A-Chain having like 80% of the touches.
Yes, I think. What's scary is Jalen Wright pre-draft, like his value right now is essentially like middling them drafting a running back or them not, right? Where if they don't draft a running back, then he needs to move up 3-4 rounds probably as like a premium handcuff spelling Achane. But this draft class is so good and so loaded. And we know Mike McDaniel kind of comes from that 49ers tree. It's just like, I'm going to find some big, fast dude I like in this draft. And the second he drafts him, then you're like, fuck, what am I doing with this Jalen?
But they just drafted him last year. They just did this with him last year.
The Niners and I mean, the Dolphins just did that last year. They hit on Achane and then they go and draft Jalen Wright, like right after. Like, I don't think these teams have any, red lights with drafting running backs.
And then Alexander Madison's in the mix too. I mean, the legends. So it is interesting to. So yeah, when you get the privilege of being on Best Ball Mania and getting to talk to Pete Overzet, you just got to pick his brain and you just got to take advantage of it. Like
I was like, are you just like sitting at a bar arguing with some dude about Jalen Wright for like 2 hours? You're like,
I mean, the big board is just a mind melt. Like it's just so funny. Like I'm taking guys I don't even know what team. I don't even like drafting NBA teams when I don't even know who they're gonna play. And I got to take guys I don't even know what team they're on, who their coach is gonna be. Like what are we even doing here? But I can't stop.
Yeah, you can't. No, you can't. It is, I think, the levels of backfield shakeups we are going to get this year is going to be greater than any other year. I think we're going to see some you look at it by like ADP, you're like, all right, like Barkley, the Eagles, they're not going to add anyone. The Falcons with Bijan and Algier like that. But you start to get down to like the third round, anything after that's fair game. Yeah. Bengals with Chase Brown, boom, draft someone. Bills with James Cook, boom, draft someone. Like, I'm not saying that's for sure going to happen, but I think like once you get to those third round ADPs, like no one is safe.
But that's the sick part too. You're talking about the Bills drafting. They have Ray Davis, and like they already have guys that I like. So it's like going to be a cluster. But the only other guy I got to shill is because we talk. This is a life lesson for the listeners. Like again, when you are around smart people, you got to take advantage of it. So when I was at your draft event in Vegas a couple years ago for the MyFFPC thing. Kareem was there and he had just come off the win. I was like, hey man, big fan. Like, and then we had like a 3-minute conversation. And in that conversation, I asked him about Sean Tucker and he was like, and he was like, yeah, like, like why? Yeah. He's like, so we're not giving up on Sean Tucker. We're back on the Sean Tucker bandwagon this year.
Interestingly enough, like the conversation we were just having about teams unlikely to add things, the Bucs backfield feels pretty solidified, right? Bucky emerges. They like what Rachaad White does. And they really like every time the GM and the coach get asked about the backfield, Sean Tucker always gets mentioned. Like, I think they like him as a strong third back. You're going to need an injury.
I think he's like pretty good. That's the only thing. I think he's like good. Yeah. Like
he's good.
So yeah, like maybe Rashad White just happens to be the odd man. Like maybe they just go into camp and like, is there any chance Rashad White is not on the team anymore? Like, I mean,
I think your path for Sean Tucker, and it's a path no one wants to think about. It's probably a Bucky injury because Rashad White's like third down role is probably pretty solidified. Where Sean Tucker would just come in and be their early down rusher if Bucky got hurt.
It's just brutal the NFL because I feel like there's so many, like you said, there's already so many good backs that we could talk about, and then they're gonna add in like a ton in a couple of weeks. So it's like it is wild.
And it'll be even more of a mind fuck, I think. Like if everyone kind of plays chicken where they're like, this class is so deep, we're going to wait. And like some really good backs go in like round 4 and round 5. And you're looking at the draft capital and you're like, yeah, that's not that big of an investment. But the talent relative to a normal 4th round pick will be much higher this year just because of how deep the class is.
Yeah.
Well, Scott, love that you're an underdog grinder. I mean, I think for everyone in the chat, for John, myself included, you couldn't draw up a more of a dream life than binking the World Series of Poker main event and then just retiring to be a full-time underdog grinder. Isn't that the ultimate dream, John?
Yeah, not even a professional one, a recreational underdog grind.
I fucking tried it and I just couldn't get the binking the main part down. So that's been my issue.
Big part of the plan.
That's step one. Yeah, you got to get really lucky first, and then you get to But it's not all it's cracked up to be too. Again, again, we could talk. That's a whole nother podcast. Yeah, exactly. Like that. That's the thing. Sometimes I wish I had more to do with my life and just sit around and watch sports. Like,
well, you can.
It's a good problem.
You had a stretch there where you were playing a ton of golf, weren't you?
Yeah, I tried, but that was what I'm gonna make the Corn Ferry Tour. No, like
everything doesn't have to be to do it at a professional level.
We're gonna half-ass. Yeah, I like golf. I love golf. I like playing golf. Again, playing golf is something retired people do when they retire at 65. You go play golf a lot.
How about this? Austin in the chat earlier said very easy to tell Scott is a sharp sports guy. Why don't you get in the ever saturated podcast take business here?
There you go. Maybe we'll do an expansion. I'll do it under your umbrella. I'll be your.
There you go.
We'll figure something out.
You know what's one I'd actually like to see, Scott, and not to put you on the spot, would be you guys doing an After Dark one. That'd be fun to carry this conversation on with an After Dark one at some point.
I mean, I am up till the wee hours of the morning.
John, I literally, when Scott hinted, when he said that comment about it's not all, peaches or whatever, that I initially thought, Scott, that'd be fun. So I just do that show Friday, Saturday nights just for YouTube members, a little bit more long form conversation, can peel back the curtain a little bit more. It sounds like I'd have some follow-up questions there. That'd be fun to do.
You say the word, you'd be doing me a favor. So you let me know.
And again, shout out to our mutual friend, Mark. So Mark, it helps me out around the channel, helps me with some production stuff behind the scenes. You guys are like in some poker group chat because he's the one who got Jonathan Tamayo on, who won this year's main event. Yeah. How are all the main event guys all buddies in the same group chat?
I said it. Yeah, there's a Skype group chat from 2012 that could get 30% of the last 10 main event winners canceled for sure. So like yeah, me, McKeon, and Tamayo go way back. I mean, I slept on Joe McKeon's floor in 2013. And then Tamayo was in the mix, and obviously the overlap of sports with Tamayo. We talk DFS and stuff, but it's definitely crazy that the three of us all have done it because we certainly have relationships, so it's wild.
Well, none of that is as crazy as the fact that you're still using a fucking Skype group chat. I mean,
no. We moved on to Discord. I'm saying that it existed on Skype. Exactly. It's in the vast Skype network, but
I love it. There you go. Well, we had Tamayo on. Mark helped organize that on Lulz in the summer after he won. How is he doing? Like, he was in that whirlwind of, there was all the press about like what happened there with the Sims and all that stuff. Is he doing good?
Yeah, he's Tamai. He's gonna be fine. I try to check in on him every now and then, just because again, I know what it's like. But I also know that the funny part is right. It's like I know obviously Joe is not the most sociable out, and then I know Tamayo doesn't want the spotlight or to be an influencer or anything. So he just kind of does his thing, and now he's basically he's got more money to play fantasy sports with. Like that's the perk of winning the main event. It's that simple. So yeah, he's good.
Have you guys got him into some underdogs, some best ball yet?
I tried. I mean, I've tried. I think it's what I'm saying. I don't think he's got the love for the game as much. He's more. He does like hockey and stuff. I'm like, well, you're the only Asian guy who does DFS hockey. Like
the only Asian guy who plays DFS hockey.
But yeah,
I love the presupposition that the demographics of fantasy hockey players.
There's a couple. I guess there's a couple. Yeah. Jason Robertson, I think, on the Stars. Yeah, I shouldn't. But yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's what I'm saying. He likes DFS hockey. I don't know. Who am I to tell him what to do?
We got it. It's like I told Karain when he won. I was like, you got to keep that money in the ecosystem. It's like, let's get some of those main event bucks over here on Underdog.
I tried, and then I won the dance. Like I was trying to give it away. And then
you're an extractor. Put some back in there.
I'm too good.
Dude, that is like doing it on I just was under the assumption when I heard you won. I was like, oh, he had 150 bullets. He was like grinding it or whatever. The fact that you just as you said, flicked in an entry from the Prim parking lot. Man.
I should do content because again, that's what I'm saying. I don't know how I do this. Yeah, I'm just good at doing 0.05. Like only skill I have in this world is figuring out 0.05% outcome. I don't what to do with that gift. I don't know. I win money, I guess. But that's what I'm saying. I don't, it is what it is.
Form a Mega Millions lottery syndicate. It sounds like what you need to do.
Maybe we just do a show at night and we'll get other people. I'll just teach people how to be lucky. We'll just do a lucky seance every night.
I love it. I bet what's so funny is you think of the grifter economy and sports betting and a lot of stuff. I bet you right after winning the World Series of Poker, if you launch something that was I share all of my rabbit foot lucky hacks and you're I say the Lord's Prayer 3 times before I sit down at the table. You could have probably sold that course.
I think Jerry Yang in 08 actually tried. I think we got to look. He might have done. I mean, that's what I said. The guy was literally, well, everyone thanks God when they win. I don't think God, but I think someone was looking out for me. I don't know if it was God, but
yeah, the poker gods. Exactly. Well, sweet. Yeah, I'll definitely reach out to you. We'll do a Friday night or Saturday night kind of after dark show because I definitely just in the same way John picked up on have a lot of follow-up questions that I think we could have fun discussing at some point. Anything else you want people to check out? It sounds like you're laying low.
No, great show. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. John, great meeting you. I follow you on Twitter, but we've never met in person, I don't think. So I don't know, I rather be Pete Overzet than John Tamayo. I'll land on that. You might not have as much money, perfect. Man, but you get to look at your life. You got Patrick Lairger, you got Six Seta, you got a nice kid at home. You get to chill and you get to talk about sports. So it's
you can buy quite a few of those, and I'm sure Laird would sign them with $10 million. You can get a few of those.
You're missing one day. That's what the Friday night show is going to be. It's going to be it's not about. Yeah. I'll tell you all the rich people that don't have it as good as you. That's what we'll do. We'll spend an hour talking about everyone richer than you.
Okay, the show's canceled. I don't know if I want. Scott has a long list.
That's good.
No, we are very fortunate to get to dick around on the internet, talking sports, talking fantasy sports. Shout out Underdog for making it possible. John, people were asking you about MLB stuff in the chat. Are you doing golf after this? What was the schedule I saw?
Yeah, I'm going to do golf today. I'm not going to hit the MLB or NBA slates today. They're both massive. They're both whatever. Maybe behind the paywall, I'll say a couple words on the MLB because I've already done handful of drafts there. But yeah, we're going to do golf, and I'm going to do it with AMAC, who's a grinder on the site, does a lot of the PGA stuff, and won the Albatross last year. So going to do that one for the Membies only in about an hour's time here, 1 p.m. my time, 4 p.m. Eastern.
Look at that on the channel today. Just champs all around. Dance, main event.
The Masters, the Masters is coming up, baby. The Masters, let's go.
I know.
Yeah.
I got a little mad right before this on the Swolecast. I participated in my first Calcutta. I had never done a Calcutta. We did a Masters Calcutta. Your boy ponied up for Scotty Scheffler, so I need the chalk to take this down.
Well,
how much was it, Pete? I watched a bit of it, but I didn't see the.
I got
the Scotty
Scheffler
pick.
for like 180 or 190, but then Rory ended up going for 225. So then I felt justified.
Ooh, yeah, no, I'd way rather have that Scotty price.
Yeah. So that was a fun time. I think I had always seen them and heard them talked about. Obviously, there's a little logistics with setting it up. But I'm definitely, I think, Calcutta pilled. I would like to start doing more of them. And like the way you think of, obviously some things lend itself to it better than others, but like you could do an NFL season long, like Calcutta, just like drafting teams for wins or playoff or Super Bowl stuff, like come up with your own scoring. We might have to whip one of those up ourselves, John, one of these days.
It'd be pretty cool is pivoting Gretch's Omni Fantasy to it and going like crazy multi-sport with it.
Wow.
That'd be pretty cool.
That would be overwhelming. That would probably also take like 24 hours to auction
that would
off
take too much. Yeah.
Every team. All right, guys, tune in to John's Membies Only here in a little less than an hour if you want the golf alpha. Like I said, you can watch us draft that Calcutta on the Swolecast from earlier today. Also ADP chasing. I haven't had a chance to listen yet, but they were live this morning talking rookies on Underdog. And then I'll be back on Thursday for lulls and ship chasing. But yeah, appreciate you all. Good luck in the dance streets. Thanks again to Scott for hopping on, and we'll see you guys next time on Off and On the Clock. Peace.